Okay. Hey, it's Zach. It's me, the Zach guy. It's like 3 in the morning right now, Saturday, May 1st. It's now May 1st. And I wanted to vlog about this real quick before I lost the excitement of it. But so here's what happened. So I've been off the dating apps for a while. Hopefully you can see me, by the way. Also, don't mind this. This is all coming off. But anyway, I've been off the dating apps for a little while. I haven't done any dating updates, but I was like, whatever, kind of slowed down for a bit. But anyway, I started talking to this one girl, what was it, 2 days ago or something. I can't really pronounce her name. It's something Spanish. Anyway, so whatever, she was kind of cute, and I was talking to her. And she must have liked me at first because she was talking to me a little bit. And then it was kind of going back and forth, and it seemed like she was awake only at like 10 at night because that's when she would talk to me. So I was like, fine. We had maybe like 3 messages a day or something. Anyway, she kept saying like how good she thought I looked or whatever. I'm like, okay, that's a nice little different way to do this. I appreciate it, you know. And so, so I'm like, okay, that's kind of cool. Maybe I hang out with her. And she said she was going through a divorce. I'm like, I'm not really putting a lot of stock into it. It's just like, get some practice in, maybe talk to some people on here. And so, whatever. Then tonight, or no, I talked to her and I was like, hey, so, what do you find yourself doing on this Friday night tonight? And she's like, oh, I'm hanging out in the backyard by a fire. And I'm like, oh, that sounds cool. And she's like, yeah, what are you doing? And I'm like, I'm being super cool. I ordered myself a pizza and I'm like playing games. And she's like, how is somebody as good looking as you by themselves on a Friday or whatever? And I'm like, I don't know. You gotta tell me. And then she saw the part where I was like, I mentioned I was hanging out with I was playing games with my friends. So I'm assuming she thought people here, which is not the case. I'm just playing Overwatch. So anyway, clearly I've got her attention. I'm like, cool. Well, this is me. I'm not being too crazy. I've learned in the past to not go nuts and keep it pretty narrow as far as where you venture out to with this stuff. So fine. So I was like, hey, yeah, well, I'd invite you over, but it'd be pretty tough to tear you away from a bonfire because that's pretty great. I wonder if I can. I don't know if I still have the chat or not to try and find it. You can see probably where this is going. Either way, I'm like, I invite you over, but it'd be tough to tear you away from a bonfire. And she's like, oh, ha ha ha, yeah, well, you may not think that you may not like my personality in person. And I'm like, oh, or why is that? And I said, I think I addressed her first message of like, I don't know why I'm alone on a Friday, whatever. I'm like, I don't know, you gotta tell me. And then I was like, why wouldn't I want to hang out with you? Do you smell? Ha ha ha. Emoji, like, do you smell? I didn't hear from her for, a couple hours because I was playing Overwatch and it was kind of late. And then I was joking on Overwatch to my friends that I'm like, hey, this girl's not responding to me. I told her that she smells and now she's not saying anything. Ha ha ha. Figuring most, sane girls would be like, look at this guy. Who does he think he is? He got some balls. Well, then I didn't hear from her. And we stopped playing around 1 or 2 in the morning. And I'm like, I'm going to go watch a movie. So now I'm watching Mad Max for the first time. I never watched it. And I guess I didn't hear it, but she calls me over Bumble. I got it just on my... Here, I'll show you. Just on my couch, right here. I had it right here. That's where my phone was at. And I'm on call right now, so the volume is cranked up. And I still didn't hear it. So I'm like, okay. Well, then I hear... My whole ringtone for a notification is like... It's like... Or something like that. It goes for like a while, maybe at least a full second or two. So I didn't hear the first call, but then I heard just a blip of the second one, just like a half of it, like I'm like, okay. Like, oh, I must be getting a text, or maybe I'm getting a page, because pages are happening. And I pick it up, and she's calling me. So I'm like, I must have set this girl off, ha ha ha. She must be like, you got some balls, fuck you. Playful, right? Wrong. I was wrong on that one. And so I'm like, what the hell? Should I even answer this? It's 3 in the morning. But I do, and I'm like, hello, how's it going? And she's like, she's got this. Oh, who was it? If you've ever seen the show, not Extras, it's the same font. It's like Scripts or something. I think it was on Showtime for a while. It's got Matt LeBlanc as the main dude. There's a girl in there who talks like she's like, it's like maybe you should do this. Well, that's apparently how this girl sounded, kind of, and I was like, all right, whatever. And she's like, how could you say that to me? I'm like, how could I say hello? I mean, what am I supposed to say? And she's like, no. You said that I smell. You asked, do you smell? And I'm like, oh. And so I'm trying to be, a little bit playful but hold my ground because that's what you do. It's fun. And in no way do I feel like I'm coming off as a jerk, and in no way do I feel like she's actually offended. Like, I still think it's that kind of playful, like, you butthead. But so she's like, how could you say that? And I'm like, like I said, how could I say hello? And she's like, no, how could you say that I smelled? And I'm like, oh. And then playfully I said, well, you said that if I hung out with you, I might not like your personality. I'm like, well, it's not your looks because I obviously like that. That looks great. That's perfect. And she's like, no, you just say that? You just have the balls to say I smell? And I'm like, yeah, I guess I do. Or I just asked that. And I'm like, it's 3 a.m. And she's like, yeah, well, I just saw it. And when I saw it, I had to call you. Because who says something like that? And the whole time, I'm still thinking she's like, being funny and kind of being mock pissed. She's not pissed. Or she's not mock pissed. She's actually pissed. And so I'm still trying to play through it because I'm giving her the benefit of the doubt. And she's, what the hell else was it? She keeps going on that, and she's like dwelling on it. And I'm trying to move the conversation along, and I'm like, yeah. So how was the rest of your, or no, she's asking about my pizza. She's like, yeah, how was the rest of your pizza? Should I ask if you're fat? And I'm like, yeah, I'm kind of being a fat kid. Ha ha ha. I laughed it off because I was going with it. I'm like, yeah, I'm kind of being a fat kid. I got a whole pizza to myself. I like to got my roll of sweet tarts with me while I'm eating it too. Maybe I eat my candy with my pork and beans. I didn't say that, but that would have been good. And I'm like, yeah, I'd kind of put some lard on my pizza too for the extra flavoring. And I was delivering it. Like, I think any regular person would know I was joking. And so, because she's asking that, I'm still thinking that she's kind of joking, and she's really not. And so, then I asked her about the bonfire, and I'm like, how was your bonfire? How was the rest of that? Because that seems pretty cool. And she's like, well, I wasn't alone or whatever. And I'm like, oh, well, that's cool. She's like, I have a family. I'm like, oh, that's right. You got a kid or something, right? And she's like, I wouldn't call it something. I have 2 wonderful. I'm trying to think of how she did. I don't know if I can quite do justice to an imitation, but she was like, I have 2 wonderful kids. I wouldn't call them something or like that. Okay. And so she says it like that, and I'm like, okay, yeah, that's cool. I guess you do. You probably have kids, and that sounds like fun. And then she's like, have you ever had a kid? Or I take it you don't have a kid. You're not a parent. And I'm like, no, I had a cat once. That was pretty cool. She's like, I hate cats. So I'm just like laughing at this point. I'm laughing through most of this because it's just ridiculous, but I'm holding myself for most of it, but I'm just like still, which way is she teetering on this? But she's like, I hate cats. I'm like, okay. Are you a dog or, I'm like, what did I say? I said, oh, and I'm trying to be funny again. I'm like, oh, are you a chinchilla person? Just thinking of the first animal that comes to my head that could be a pet that isn't a dog, because a dog is the obvious choice. And I'm like, you going for that? Oh, no, diversion comedy, going around with the unexpected things. I'm like, are you a chinchilla person? She's like, oh, why would you say that? Are you saying that because I'm Hispanic? I'm like, what? And she's like going off, but she's going so slow when she's doing it. That's why I still think she's joking. She's like, you just say something like that because I'm Hispanic? Like, you think that I'm a dog person, and then you're gonna ask if I like Chihuahuas? And I'm like, I didn't say Chihuahua. I said chin. She's like, I know what you said. I'm like, okay. yeah, I guess that's probably what I'm doing. I guess I could be really funny and ask if you like Taco Bell. And then I didn't hear the click, but I'm like, what? And ended the call. I'm like, okay, I've met girls like that before who just hang up and they want you to call back. But nope. She ended the call and then unmatched me instantly. And then that was it. My first instinct is just, holy shit, this girl is crazy. Like, I'm so glad I didn't hang out with her because what the hell? Like, it's one thing, I think, if you misinterpret somebody, it's easy to misread somebody's tone over a text. But once you get on the phone and you get that sense of their voice where it's like, oh, this guy's playing me, it's a lot better. But to take that freaking literally, where it's just like, why would you say that? Was it because I'm Hispanic? Like, dude, I'm starting to kind of see why you're getting a divorce. Holy shit. Well, maybe that's not the case. I guess I can't judge her because I don't know her, but I can judge her based on the interaction that I had for that short while, and based on that, I would think she's nuts. Maybe she's not, but from that little bit, she sure as hell seemed that way. Yeah, it's just crazy that there's people out there that are, I don't know, that nuts like that. So whatever. That's all I have to say. It's 3 in the morning. I just got a random call from some crazy girl on Bumble. So thanks, Bumble. Screen your people somehow. I don't know.